What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to the Blazers Uprise Postgame show powered by BetUS. Today, the Portland Trailblazers get out-tanked by the Toronto Raptors as they beat them 105-102 on a Matisse Thybulle game-sealing block of what would have been a game-tying three-pointer. Matisse Thybulle returned today and played his first action for the Blazers all season long. It's been almost a calendar year since we last saw Thybulle on the floor. He came in and had a defensive impact on this game. The Blazers were down by, 15, 16, 18 points, something like that in this game, and went on a run there in the second half. The Raptors, curiously, sat out Scotty Barnes and Jakob Poeltl over the final stretch of minutes, and it's pretty clear that they are actively tanking right now, and it's pretty clear that the Blazers aren't actively tanking, and that's why they got this dub. 105-102 win. Coming to you here on a Sunday. Eric, how's your weekend been? How are you doing, man?
My weekend's been really good. It's one of those games where you didn't think the Blazers were going to lose looking at it before the game started. Then they get down, 16 in the first half, 15 in the second half, something like that. And then you're like, okay, maybe they're not going to show up for this one. And then they claw back, tie it at halftime, and then claw back and take the lead at the end in the second half as well. And it was like, so depending on what side of the fence you sit on whether you think winning is important for these guys or not, it was, I don't know if they necessarily won this game, but like you said, they definitely got out-tanked there at the end.
Yeah, that's like the nicest way I can put it, man. I mean, Toronto only plays Scotty Barnes 28 minutes in this game. He had no fouls. They only play Jakob Poeltl 25 minutes in this game. He only had one foul. It's not like these guys. Yeah, he was dominating. He was a plus 12. Jamal Shed was a plus 21. He played 25 minutes. All right. They had 30 minutes off the bench from Orlando Robinson, who's a minus 27, and 33 off the bench from A.J. Lawson, who's a minus 10. Now, A.J. Lawson has actually been playing pretty good lately. Did not play good tonight. But, man, I mean, there's a couple different directions we can go with this postgame show. We're going to try and keep it quick. We're going to try and make this about an hour long, which would be our shortest postgame show in years. But it's a Sunday. We got a lot of 3 p.m. Pacific Sunday times coming up, which is a little brutal. Also, this start time was brutal because the selection show started at the same time this game started. And as a big college basketball fan, I was going to watch the selection show over the first half of this game. So I was able to tune in for the second half, caught the second half. I'll let you, Eric, fill me in on this first half of this game. Just quick little box score rundown before we get into this recap. Anthony Simons, 6 for 12 from 3, 7 for 15 from the field, 22 points, 4 assists, 2 turnovers in 32 minutes. He shot the 3-ball well, didn't do much inside the arc. Toumani Camara, 21 points, 7 boards, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, 8 for 16 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3. A good shooting day from him. The Raptors were leaving him wide open. Doesn't really make sense to me considering he's actually probably one of Portland's better shooters right now on the floor. But, they left him wide open. He made him pay, poured in 5 threes. He and Anthony Simons combined to go 11 for 22 behind the arc. The rest of the team did not shoot particularly well. You got 19, 6 and 6 from Avdia, 17 from Sharp, 7 for 6 from the field, but he was 1 for 8 from 3. Continues to be a sore spot for him, as well as 4 turnovers with only 1 assist. And then Scoot off the bench, following up a great previous game against the Knicks. 2 for 12 with 6 turnovers, 5 assists, 5 points. 1 for 5 from the three-point line. This was a brutal game for Scoot. This looked like last year's Scoot. Now, it's just one game, so I'm not going to overreact to that. He had a great game last game. He just didn't follow it up with a good one tonight. Yeah. 3 for 7 shooting off the bench from Chris Murray for 7 points. You had 9 points from Duop Reith, 3 for 8, 1 for 4 from 3, which is becoming the Duop Reith special, 1 for 4 from 3. And then Thybulle in his 6 minutes didn't shoot, but had 2 steals, 2 blocks, including that game-sealing final block for the Blazers. That's your box score rundown, chat. Let me know what you think of the game today. I see Chris Murray killed it. Tori has to admit it. Yes, Chris Murray killed our dreams of the 7th best odds. You're right. You're right. You're right. Eric, where do you want to start with this breakdown? I'll let you lead us into it.
I mean, it didn't seem like the Blazers had any interest in this game. I guess let's start with Matisse Thybulle. Let's just get him out of the way. He finally plays. First time this season. Didn't seem like he was going to play at all this game. Then, like, we get down big in the second half. Coach puts him in, just trying to get something different out there. And, yeah, he had some good moments out there, including the game-saving block shot. But Chauncey learned his lesson, I guess. Late game situation, he puts our defensive lineup in the game, unlike their 3-point guarding lineup. Tamani almost fouls a little too late on I forget what that was, Temple or somebody. Almost gets called for a 3-shot foul. So I don't know about the execution. We leave a guy wide open on the last play, Orlando Robinson, who can hit a 3. So Matisse made a great play to get back over to someone who wasn't his guy after a defensive breakdown. And, so you can argue whether we want Matisse making defensive plays out there or not, but today he definitely had an impact in winning this one.
Yeah. I mean, they went on a run when he got back into the game. Also, I started up a chat poll. Were you rooting for the Blazers to win or lose this game? You can let me know in the chat poll. I'll be honest, man, and I've said this, every time I root for this team to win, they lose, and every time I root for them to lose, they win. So, they won today. So, you know my answer to that poll. I was honestly rooting for this team to start the tank off in style. The Blazers would have had a chance to catch Toronto for 7th best lottery odds. Toronto has a super easy schedule the rest of the way and play the Blazers again. So if the Blazers could have lost both these matchups to Toronto, they would have had actually a decent chance of potentially passing up Toronto, with the Blazers' schedule being pretty tough down the way. But the any hope or dreams of having 7th best lottery odds went out the window with this win today. We'll take a look at the Tankathon picture later, but just to reiterate kind of the path this team has been on, they have that great stretch right before the trade deadline where they won 9 out of 10 games before the trade deadline, didn't trade anyone, and then that night beat Sacramento. Okay, they beat Sacramento. Since that win against Sacramento, the Blazers have won every single game against a tanking team or a team that is not in play-in position, and then they've lost every other game. Every other game. So since that win against Sacramento, the Blazers are 6-10. They're 6 wins. Charlotte, Utah, Washington, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Toronto today. Right? Every other single game they've played against any team that's not tanking or not a bottom feeder, they've lost. And this game is like the perfect microcosm of that for me, Eric, in terms of, man, if they play a team actually trying to win, they lose this game. They barely took care of business against Toronto when Toronto down the stretch looked like they were actively tanking. Okay, they sat Jakob Poeltl in the final minutes. They sat Scotty Barnes in the final minutes. They also, being down 1 with 15 seconds left, let 10 seconds wind off the clock before they fouled. Now, that might have just been a young, inexperienced team, but my goodness.
They're just going to let us play out the...
That was wild. Yeah.
That would have been hilarious if they did that, though.
That was... That was wild. I mean, this is not a good Raptors team. This was not a good Raptors lineup, but it seemed like the Raptors thought their lineup was too good for us today because they felt the need to sit their 2 best players down the stretch. All right? So the Blazers win because they played a team that was tanking, and that's just kind of a microcosm of how things have gone since the trade deadline, you know? Like, you can... For those of you watching, you can feel however you want about that statement, but that's just everything I said is factually correct. the types of wins they've gotten, the types of losses they've gotten since that game against Sacramento, and then the Raptors did sit their two best players down the stretch, their two veterans. All of those are factual things,
playing.
And the Blazers barely won. Like all of those, none of that is arguable. You know, if you still wanted the Blazers to win, completely fine. I'm not going to tell you how to fan over the team, right? But also I understand the other side of it, if you want them to lose, with the hope that maybe they could catch Toronto for 7th best odds or make it more likely that they get 8th best odds. That's just kind of where we're at right now. Now, the Blazers have another game tomorrow against the Wizards, so probably another win versus a bottom-feeding tanking team. And then they have a long stretch of games that they don't face those types of teams. They got a long stretch of games against good NBA teams. We'll see if they can finally beat one of them. But it was like, it's just crazy how set in stone this has been since February 6th. Like, we almost beat New York? No. Mikal Bridges, insane game winner. Almost beat Cleveland? No. We barely lose in overtime, right? And then Toronto, we're down as many as 16 points in the second half. No, we're going to find a way to come back and win. It's going to be the dude that hasn't played all season. He's going to be the one who spurs the team, right? So good for Thibault, all right? We'll talk about him. Good for him, but, man, we are just stuck in this pattern, Eric.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much since that Kings game that you mentioned, I've been resigned to not even caring about moving up that much in the standings, because I just know this team is kind of caught in a position after they didn't trade any other veterans at the deadline that they're too good to do what they've done the last few years. And then the players that they've been keeping out of games aren't necessarily the ones that are helping them win games. So the ones that are, like Tamani and Denny, players like that, are still playing in these games. So unless those guys somehow come up with an injury, I pretty much just assumed that we wouldn't be tanking or losing to teams like the Raptors, even when, as mentioned in chat, the Raptors have a 93% chance to win this game, according to some prediction models in the fourth quarter when they're up big. The broadcast mentioned it several times. The Blazers still feel like they have a chance of making the play-in. And we know that's fool's gold, or they're dangling a carrot that they can't achieve to please fans that want to win and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of felt this entire season, between how they handled the deadline, how they've handled their roster this entire season, that this was a year where they were going to care more about that than they were losing games and being in the Cooper flag race or whatever. Ultimately, that might cost this team a chance to really be special, adding that final piece. But we'll have to see how the lottery works down the stretch.
Yeah. I don't know, man. You know, we've had 3 days off, right? So didn't stream Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Had 3 days off. Watched a lot of college ball. You know, there's a couple players I like. I like a lot. A couple of players that I'm higher on now than I was a week ago, just watching some of their games over their conference tournaments. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. At least tomorrow's going to be a big board day. So we're going to talk about our latest prospect rankings, which I'm really looking forward to. But, you know, like coming back to this team just with where they're at right now, and it's just like, all right, so yeah, the dream of making the play-in. You're 3.5 back now. We finally cracked that 4-game barrier, right? Finally cracked that 4-game barrier. They're now 3.5 back. Dallas, according to Bobby Marks, might have to forfeit games in the future. I don't think it'll come to that, but their situation is just devastating injury-wise. And, of course, they traded Luka. So, I mean, that team might lose every game the rest of the year. Who knows, you know? Like, that team's really, really bad. It's just, how are you going to be able to catch Phoenix? Phoenix is going to be the harder team to catch. At the end of the day, the Blazers are going to have to win games against teams that aren't a bottom feeding team or tanking, and they just have not done that. They just have not proven to be able to do that. You got a lot of home games against them. You got Memphis, Denver, Boston, Cleveland. So maybe you can rattle off a win or two. But that's the thing is like you're looking at Washington. Okay, that's a win. Maybe you get 2.5 back of Dallas then. But then, do any of us expect the Blazers to beat Memphis, Denver, Boston, or Cleveland? Like I don't expect them to win any of those games. Then you got Sacramento at New York. I feel like you got to win against Washington, then you got probably a 6-game losing streak. I think 1-5 would maybe be my prediction. So you're still a game and a half back of Dallas if they lose every single game. And then you got Atlanta, at Toronto, at Chicago. Like, yeah, maybe you can rattle off some wins, but we're not taking into account Phoenix. If Phoenix is able to win some games over that stretch, they're going to be 4 games up on us. And that's the problem with the play-in chances. They're just very, very slim because this team is just proving that they can't take care of business against teams with winning records. So, play-in, yeah, sure, it'd be cool to see them make the play-in. But I don't know, man. If you can't beat above 500 teams, especially on the road, what? All right, so we're the 10th seed and we're going up against a above 500 9th seed most likely on the road. Like we're probably going to lose by 20. Like that's kind of what I would expect from this team, at least just given what they've shown us. And I don't want to go into a play-in game or a playoff game like, yeah, we're probably going to get destroyed and we hopefully we play good, but we're probably going to get destroyed because that's getting back to the same feelings I used to have with the Dame iteration of the Blazers a lot of years where we'd go into the first round like, yeah, we're not going to beat Golden State or the bubble year. We're not going to beat the Lakers. So it just kind of reminds me of those feelings. Like I want this team to be competitive when they make it. I want this team to be able to win playing games, win playoff games. Yeah, making the 10 seed would be cool, I guess, but it doesn't really hold much for me if they're making a 10 seed and they're not actually competitive in that playing game. Now, in a 1-game set, of course, any team can be competitive. Any team can overachieve for a game, right? So maybe the Blazers would. It's just how many above 500 teams have they beat on the road since the new year, right? They beat Milwaukee. Remember, it was 4 teams that were above 500 that they've beat since the new year. One was Indiana at home. One was Sacramento at home. One was Milwaukee at home. And one was Milwaukee on the road, right? So teams that are currently above 500. The Blazers only have 1 win, if I'm counting correctly. 1 win since the new year against a team above 500 on the road. Their win before that was December 19th. That was the Anthony Simons buzzer beater against Denver at home. Oh, no, that wasn't even on the road. So that was at home. You'd have to go all the way back to at Houston on November 23rd. That was the game that Brooks and Sharp got into it. So since then, the Blazers only have 1 win against an above 500 team on the road. So I don't know. Like, I would get excited, Eric, I guess, if they beat a good team. Like the New York Knicks win, I was ready to be, or the New York Knicks game, I was really ready to come on the postgame show and be excited about that win and talk about how they competed hard against New York. I was pretty happy with that loss in general, like on the last postgame show. It's just cool. You beat a team by 3 that was actively trying to lose. Doesn't really hold much for me, and the play-in dream is a dream. Yeah. So I just don't really, you know what I mean? Like there's not much joy in this win for me, I'll be honest.
Well, also, like Brooklyn and Philadelphia both win today. So if Toronto wins as well, that's 3 teams below you that all would have won and you would have lost. So I get your point. I will say, if this team made the playoffs, it is a little different on the come up first time doing it. Like you're expected to take your lumps the first round of the playoffs versus a Dame team in like year 6 of making the playoffs. Like there's a difference there between doing it multiple years and never getting much better than that after a certain point. So
For sure. Can I add something real
yeah,
quick? For sure. Normally, you don't get there unless you're able to beat some teams that aren't bottom feeders or tanking, and that's not the Blazers right now. So that's just kind of the
right.
difference between, like, that would be a good thing, but that's not who they are right now.
Yeah, and I mean if they made the play-in, let's just say they went on like a miracle run this end of the season. Like you said, they would have to beat some good teams. But the other part of that is, I mean, the Mavericks completely destroyed their entire franchise, and like that's them just going from they were a solid. They were probably going to be top six. They weren't even going to be in the
Yeah.
play-in, and then they go to just like completely. Now we're talking about them being terrible and easy to pass, being 4.5 games behind them. Um, but like, and then Phoenix has just been dreadful this year. Like no one really expected them to be this bad. And so you're passing teams that, like once again, like you mentioned, you're not necessarily like doing something to be awesome and be like a playoff legitimate team. It's more like teams that we thought were going to easily be better than us might not necessarily do it. And that's only if we even make up 4.5 games from this point, right? So you still have to do that to make a play-in or have a chance. So yeah, it's kind of funny how this season has gone in terms of that. But it does feel, going back to a conversation we had several points last year, it does feel like they're content trying to be the Rockets of last year.
Yeah, that Rockets team was 500 though. You know,
Yeah.
like that's
Yep.
just the difference. That's just the difference. That Rockets team was 500. I can pull up their schedule from last year, but I guarantee you, if we go to their schedule down the stretch, that Rockets team had a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 game winning streak where they beat OKC on the road, they beat Cleveland at home, they beat Sacramento on the road, right?
What point of the season was this?
This was March.
Oh,
March. But they had like Phoenix was better. They beat Phoenix twice after the All-Star break. They beat New York at home, right? Like that's the thing. You go look at them, and they were being competitive against good teams. They were actually getting some wins against teams that were above 500. It's just a bit different. It's just a bit different for the Blazers right now, where it's you're taking care of business against the teams that you're supposed to right now. So that can be looked at as a good thing. But basically, it's like, yeah, they're too bad to tank, so they'll beat all the bad tanking teams. Or no, they're too good to tank, so they'll beat all the bad tanking teams. But then they're not good enough to beat the competitive teams. They're kind of stuck in that middle. That's like my biggest fear out of this rebuild. The Blazers can't get stuck there. So, moving forward, how do they build upon it if they don't have a high draft pick? That's something that Cronin's going to have to figure out, right? That's something that he's going to have to figure out.
yeah.
Regardless of my opinions of whether or not I trust him to do it, that's basically what's next. If the Blazers were worse, it'd actually be easier going forward to take that next step, to actually take 2 steps forward, because obviously if you have a Cooper Flagg or a Dylan Harper, just a better draft pick, you're more likely going to get a difference maker. So, you're less likely to be able to draft a true difference maker. So how do you take those next steps? That's going to be a super interesting question over the next couple of years, because, yeah, while this young team is better, they're still without their star. And that's also the tough thing with a game like this is, like, I don't think Sharp or Scoot played well. Scoot especially did not play well. Sharp had some moments, but the 1 for 8 from 3 and the 1 assist, 4 turnovers, like, they're still young, so I'm still being patient, but it's like, yeah, you beat a tanking team and your young guys aren't really the guys who did it. I guess, if you count Denny as a young guy, sure. He had some good moments. Tamani, of course, had some good moments. But it's like, you got a lot of good role players. How are you going to get your star? That's the biggest question facing this team. The easiest way is through the draft. And if it's not through the draft, I don't know exactly what to expect of them or how exactly they're going to go about getting a star that can actually lead this team to legitimate playoff runs. So, that's my biggest fear out of the rebuild, is coming out of the rebuild without somebody that's like your clear-cut guy. So I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, see, to me, this is why when people wonder why we get so upset when they don't trade the veterans, because if you're not going to get a high pick, the next best thing to do is have a ton of chances to get someone later in the draft that could be that person hit on picks. And when you limit it to, we now have just one pick, or I guess there's a chance we could end up with a second round pick, right? I forget where we're at on that one after today, but basically, as of right now, we only have one pick in this draft, and it's going to be around the 10th pick or whatever, unless we get super lucky. So you're basically putting all your eggs into that one basket. And then if you would have traded someone for even like the 30th pick or something in this draft, or like an early second or something, like then at least you have two chances to possibly hit on someone. And, we trade away our second round picks last year and don't take those chances either. So to me, it's, you have to either take lots of shots, you take an Usman Jang and you also take a Jalen Williams, one of them hits and you look like a genius. Whereas if you only have the one pick and you take Usman Jang, you look like an idiot right now, right? Like, because you took the wrong player. So having multiple stabs at this thing to get that star, to me, it's not as good as having a high pick, but it's the closest we're going to be if we're going to be in the situation we're in. So the fact that we didn't do anything to add an asset at all this year with how many veterans and tradable pieces we have, also is kind of frustrating. So to me, we're getting stuck in that position where we don't have the picks to make a ton of stabs unless we get lucky, 5 years from now with a pick swap or whatever. But I guess it's only 4 years now until we have 2029. But so
all your eggs
basically
are in that
we're
basket,
waiting for that to happen, and that's still a ways down the road.
You never want to come out of a rebuild without somebody that's your go-to star or without a ton of extra draft capital.
Yeah.
You want to have at least one or the other. Preferably both. Because there are other teams that have both. OKC has both, right? Here's the thing. We want to make the Houston comparison. Şengün was looking like a star last year in a way that no current Blazer, I think, is. And he was an all-star this year. And they have Amen Thompson, who long-term might be a better prospect than Scoop, man, but they got their star in Şengün. They also have more future draft capital than us. That's the whole point about, Houston last year was 41-41. We're sitting here 10 games below 500, trying to act like we're that team that was 500 last year when we don't have our star and we don't have the draft capital that they have. So it's how are we going to surpass them going forward? Because that's the thing. You're going to have to surpass Houston. You're going to have to try and be competitive against OKC. How do you get there, right? And that's just the biggest worry coming out of this rebuild is if you get lucky in the draft lottery this year, you get your star. Okay, cool. It solves the problem. Maybe they can still get lucky drafting 10. Maybe Con Knipple is the next Devin Booker. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe this, maybe that. We can play the maybe game. Maybe you get lucky. But it's I don't like relying on long shots where we're we're ready to come out of rebuild mode. And then we look around all right, who's our star? Hopefully Sharp in a few years. Okay. How much draft capital do we have? Oh, we still don't have our own pick. And we have the 2029 best of Boston, Milwaukee, and Portland and a couple swaps. And that's it. Okay. Well, okay. So we rebuilt to just get some young players that we don't know are our stars. And that's it. You know what I mean? Is just not really as fruitful as it should be. Mm-hmm. And that was always my biggest fear with the rebuild, because those types of rebuilds end up with you getting stuck kind of in the middle where you're not good enough to contend or not bad enough to actually fix it, which the Blazers were stuck in for a while, and I don't want to go back to that. So that's why it's Torres always so upset with the team. Torres always so negative with the team. That's the only thing I have an issue with right now is it feels like that's the route we're going. And some people will be happy with that route because they just want to be back in the playoffs. Okay, then I understand why you'd be happy. I fully understand why you'd be happy. We want different things. That's the best way. That's the best way I can summarize it right now.
And so this was a bad draft last year like most people consider a bad draft, whatever. It didn't have like the superstar at the top. So this might be, um, you might counteract what I'm about to say by saying it's not going to matter that they took Reed Shepherd, but the key difference between Houston last year and us this year is it wasn't their own pick that was high. They had Brooklyn's pick, and their pick was going to OKC if it wasn't top 4. So they might as well go for it because it doesn't matter how they do. With the Blazers, we don't have anyone else's pick this year. Like we had Golden State's last year. Remember, they don't make the playoffs. It ends up being a lottery pick or whatever. And it ends up being enough value to trade for Denny, that kind of stuff. We only have our own pick this year. So if we do better, it hurts our chances of getting someone. And now whether or not Reed Shepherd pans out is a different story. But if Reed Shepherd ends up being a key piece in their contention later on in this rebuild, then you can look back at that season, them winning and building that culture and going for it with all the veterans they signed that offseason as a similar path to what the Blazers could do. But it also didn't matter if they won games at the end of the season. Like you said, they went on an 11-game win streak in March or whatever. Like that's because they didn't have to tank at that point because they knew they were going to get a high pick with Brooklyn, and they knew their pick was likely not going to be with them. So they could play free and go for wins without it mattering. The Blazers, it absolutely matters in terms of that. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't root for your team to win. If you want to do that, that's fine. But like what I'm saying is the Blazers winning does hurt their chances to get that final piece to this puzzle if you're looking at it long term.
Yeah, I mean, basically it's like if you only care about this team trying to win a championship, all right, does winning today matter? Maybe losing today doesn't matter either, right? But I'll take the better ping pong balls. Like, I analyze this team with the perspective of one day we want this team to contend for championships. Now, of course, you can enjoy the little things along the way, but it's tougher for me to enjoy like somebody playing well when we're 10 games below 500 and winning games just to mess up our ping pong balls, right? Because it's like, all right, is this player playing well? Like, how sustainable is it? Like, are they going to be good enough to actually be the star if we're not able to get them through the draft? Like, this is the questions, all right? Now, in that lens, it's like there's a lot of, oh, well, you want to build a winning culture, a winning organization, all right? And I'm like, okay, sure, but is going 6-10 since the day of the deadline? Are we really building a winning culture? Barely beating teams that are actively trying to lose, does that mean we're building a winning, sustainable culture? Like, if we lost this game instead of won it, maybe sat a couple guys, would that have really screwed our supposed winning culture that we're building, even though we just lost 5 in a row? You know what I mean? It's like, I get it. You want to build an organization that holds its players to a high standard. Like, you want an identity on both sides of the floor. You want guys to work hard. I just think you can do that and at this point, like, start to shut it down because you only have 14 games left in the year. I understand the Blazers are not going to go that route. It's just, it's just like this. It's not a good place to be in, stuck in the middle. I don't even want to continue this conversation much longer. So you add what you want to add.
I just have one more thing to say in terms of, do you think there's a possibility they looked at it like, okay, Ace isn't living up to necessarily the Cooper Flag level hype. So you basically only have a 14% chance of getting Cooper Flag, another whatever percent chance of getting Dylan Harper if you're really bad. So you can argue there's top two that could be those difference makers, right? And then maybe you'd say in our best case scenario, Scoot and Sharp we already have already. So do we really want to tank this season away for Dylan Harper? I'm not saying this is the right mindset, but let's just say they only identified Cooper Flag as really the one person that could be that change. So what if they're going to try and win this year and then tank next year, but being like, oh, we just didn't do that. Like that would be because
no,
all the guys on the top next year are like legitimate wings where they could make a difference. Like so they could still fix this if they tank next year.
But here's the problem: you're going to have heightened expectations going into next year. Next year, it's going to be like, okay, we should make the play-in game, and then if we take a step back, then it looks really, really bad. Like, damn, you didn't get anything out of last year's draft because if we take a step back, that whoever we draft probably isn't helping. So you just wasted the entirety of last season, is how some people might look at it. I think it's just straightforward in terms of they're playing their guys just like they did other seasons, but other seasons they were a little worse. So when they were a little worse, it made it really easy this time of year to say like, okay, yeah, let's just shut everybody down and let's just lose every game. This year they're a little bit better where it's like, man, we don't have much to gain. What's the difference between 8th and 10th best odds? It's minimal, even though it's like 8th, I think, has double the odds of 10th in terms of making the top 4, right? 26% instead of 13.
And then it drips a little, and then 8th.
Yeah, 8th isn't terrible. You still got 26% chance of moving up. Like, whatever, right? But I just think they were good enough to the point where they don't have much ground they can gain, so they would rather just push for a play-in and say, look how close we got. We were only a couple games back in the play-in, right? And then go into the offseason and use that as a excuse to not do much of anything, because that's kind of been the MO, I fully expect them to go into this offseason and actually be kind of stagnant and, maybe draft a shooter, but go run it back into next year like we're a young team. We almost made the play-in last year. Not, we're expecting to take a step forward this year. That's truly what I expect from this offseason and going into next year. And I think that's how they're viewing it. I don't think it's convoluted in any way. I just think they were a little too good to tank. And now it's, all right, we'll just see how close we can get to this play-in. Maybe we still have a chance. The Blazers are only 3.5 games back of Dallas. You got some home games coming up, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is. So
push that hopium.
Yeah. Let's do Tankathon, and then we'll talk about a few players from this game, and then we'll wrap up the stream. The 3 p.m. tip-off times on a Sunday kind of suck, especially on Selection Sunday. That's annoying. And we got a bunch of 3 p.m. tip-off times coming up, man. I don't understand it. But here's the Tankathon picture. Blazers fell from 8th to 10th. 8th to 10th. They're now half a game behind Chicago. They're tied with San Antonio, but have played 2 more games, so have a slightly higher winning percentage. So 10th best odds. Toronto now 5 games up. Blazers would have only been 3 games away from Toronto and would be in 8th right now. This would be a 13 games back instead of a 14, and this would be a 10 instead of a 9. It'd be 13 games back and 10 games back to Toronto. Toronto has a really easy schedule the rest of the way, and a game against Portland that Portland could lose. We would be sitting here talking about, we're still in 8th, and we now have a legitimate chance at 7th. Instead, it's like, no more chance at 7. There's no more chance at 7. Hopefully you can get 8th as far as this tank race. Monumental game for that. All right, we'll simulate the lottery. Let's scroll up. Let's see the Blazers in 10th place with the 10th pick, which might not even be high enough for Knipple. All right, we got 14, Atlanta via Sacramento. 13, Dallas. 12 is Houston via Phoenix. 11 is Miami. And 10 is your San Antonio Spurs.
Ethical tanking.
Ethical tanking and the jinx.
You said your San Antonio Spurs.
Well, I was gonna say your Portland
I know what you're
Trailblazers.
about to say, yeah.
It's the San Antonio Spurs. All right, ethical tanking.
Yeah!
Hopefully these tankathon sims are indicative of real life.
Every time we win a game and lower our odds, we seem to move up.
I know. Maybe it's tankathon, a bug in tankathon software. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna guess. All right. At 9, we got Chicago. At 8, we got Toronto. At 7, we got New Orleans. At 6, we got Charlotte. And at 5, we have the Utah Jazz. So you got Washington, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, and Portland. At 4, we have your Portland Trailblazers. At 3, we have Philadelphia. At 2, we have Washington. And at 1, we have the Brooklyn Nets. All right, so we get Con Knipple anyway.
We're going to take them at 4. Wow.
Oh, man. I don't know. Like, if we don't move up, that's who I'm really hoping for at this point. Like 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
I would probably take him at 8 at this point. We'll do our big boards tomorrow, but he looked good without Cooper Flag, man.
Yeah.
He looked good without Cooper Flag. So
Matt says if we don't get top 4, it's because you didn't believe hard enough, Tori.
I believed we were getting Wemby. I was even rubbing the piece
The
of
wood
wood,
for Wemby.
the wood for Wemby. Yeah, I have it on my mantle, on my fireplace now as like a decorative piece, which is funny. But yeah, I was believing, and we didn't get it. So, belief only does so much. Anyway.
Shout out to Sam Dooley.
Yeah, where's Sam been, man?
I don't know.
I haven't seen Sam in a while.
I think he still watches later, but I don't think he makes many live streams.
Yeah.
Leave a comment if you're watching this, Sam.
Yeah.
Like after the fact.
Yeah, shout out to Sam. All right. Spooky Cactus said, "I was there. Arena was loud, but mild and crazy." Well, I'm glad the Moda Center had an atmosphere today. At least that's a good thing for sure.
Yeah, my mom said it was pretty loud too, which is surprising for this game.
Yeah, Sunday game. Maybe there's just more people in the arena because it was a Sunday game. But
well, you were wondering why they're doing the 3:00 thing. They just want more like kids, families to be able to make the game on a school night.
Yeah, for sure. But we have. Let's see. We have a Sunday 3 p.m. next Sunday, and the Sunday after that, and the Sunday after that. And then the Sunday after that is 12:30 p.m. So, like, every Sunday through the rest of the season, we got 3 p.m. or earlier on the last day of the season, which just sucks. You know, I'm already, like, this time on Sunday, I'm already just like, work week coming up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Are you celebrating St. Patrick's Day during the pod? My girlfriend wanted me to get like we saw a hat at Fred Meyer that had like lights and it was green. So
wanted you to, so you didn't get it?
Well, I said we can get it. Well, I can say we can get it at a different day. But I guess it's tomorrow. Maybe I'll go get it tonight. As long as we get the stream to 100 likes.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal. Tori, I know what you should get for your studio. Let me know, because I'm about to the point where I'm going to start actually adding stuff to this room. About done adding stuff to the rest of the house.
Get a scoot cutout, he says. Or like one of those...
Fathead.
Fathead. There you go. Thank you.
Do they still make those?
I think so. I think the company might have gone out, but I'm sure they still make. Because that like space in between your door and your closet would be a perfect spot for a fathead or some sort.
Yeah, it would actually. It would. But then I'm less of a reporter / journalist and more of a fan, Eric. I can't let that happen. I gotta be professional.
I don't. So I'll put the Scoot.
Claude says, sorry, I just got on, but did anybody notice the intentional loss by the Raptors today? Well, you can tell I noticed because I put it in the headline. All right, let's recap this game really quick. First, before we do that, shout out to BetUS for sponsoring the stream. If you want to get in on March Madness, the bracket got revealed today. I dropped my bracket picks today. You can get in on the action with BetUS. Use promo code YouTube150. Receive a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit. 125% bonuses on your next two deposits up to $2,000 with our friends over at BetUS. You can get in on spread lines and all sorts of fun stuff for March Madness games. And I think it's a really good crop of 12 and 13 seeds. So if you want to place a little action on the underdog and then root for the underdog, that's the best way to enjoy March Madness, in my opinion. Rooting for the underdog, make it a little fun because you got a little something small on the line. And if they pull off the upset, it's always really fun. That's what March Madness is all about. It's about Cinderellas and upset stories.
Did we ever read off Carson's member message?
No, we did not. We'll do that, and then we'll
all right.
Quickly recap. Go ahead.
PDX Papermaker member for 33 months message says, the Denny dunk made my day with the Denny emoji. Go Blazers.
Yeah, perfect segue.
Still positive.
That dunk was... Yeah, that dunk was cool, man. That was a cool play. That was, Denny being Denny. Got the John Cena music playing. Let me pull up the box score again. 4 for 8, had 19 points on 8 shots because he was 8 for 9 from the free throw line and had 6 assists. You know, this was like a... See, like, why is he only shooting 8 shots, though? Especially when we're shooting 40% from the field as a team. Like, why is Duop Reith shooting as many shots as him?
I mean, he did have some turnover problems early, but then kind of figured that out.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and I mean, he would have had more shots if they were calling less fouls, I guess. But just interesting how some nights, you know, he is really good tonight. He just didn't shoot much on a game on a night where the team wasn't shooting well. So that's the thing, is just like, how do the Blazers increase his volume is one of the biggest questions I have. Because... I
mean, it was 6 assists, and he got to line 9 times. Like, that'll limit your shot.
Yeah, true. But it's like, in our search for a star, we got a 6'9" dude that can handle, score from all 3 levels, pass, right? Is like pretty quick and crafty. If we're not going to get our star through the draft, we have to find one some other way. Like, all right, find a way to increase Denny's volume and see what that looks like. Because he can score in ISO, he can run pick and roll, like, he can do all this stuff. It's just, how do you maximize that? Like, what is the ceiling for that? And sometimes it's just like, man, we're not even, in a game like this, should we ran more for him? Should he be more aggressive? Was it a him problem? Was it a system problem? Like, we did not shoot well, and he has been one of our most efficient players lately, and he was super efficient tonight because he was getting to the line. Like, why didn't we have him do even more?
Yeah, but when Tamani ties for the most shots on the team, I guess they kind of flip roles tonight, because usually it's...
Yeah, but I mean, it's just because he's being left wide open.
Well, maybe that's it. They just had their coverage geared towards Denny a little more.
Yeah, but I mean, Scoot got 12 shots up, although he didn't get to the free throw line, so it's not much different. But it's just like, you see, like, Chris Murray gets 7 shots up in 17 minutes. Duop Reith gets 8 shots up. I don't know. Just for Denny, he's playing really good and he's been really efficient. It's just like, how do you maximize that, and what is his ceiling, and how do you potentially increase his volume and without decreasing his production? Because if you can find a way for him to increase his volume and his usage at all without a drop-off, then you can start talking about, you have a fringe star on your hands. You got a guy that's like top 50 player in the league type stuff. It's just like, I don't know. There's just these games where he doesn't even play bad or shoot bad, and he's just 8 shots, same amount as Uprise, you know? And you even look at, like, first 3 games of the month, 13, 14, 10 shot attempts, right? The last time he shot more than 15 shots once, and that was the overtime against New York, right? So, overtime game, he played 41 minutes. The last time he shot more than 15 field goal attempts, Eric, was January 28th versus Milwaukee, the Dame return game. Even when he had the 30-point triple-double, he only had 13 field goal attempts. Now, he got to the line 13 times. But do you get what I'm saying? It's just like...
Yeah.
How do you get that higher? If he's getting to the line this much, like, he should be playing with the ball even more in his hands. He should be taking more shots. He should be attacking even more. He's shooting 8 free throw attempts per game in the month of March. He's shooting 50% from the floor, 44% from 3. But he's only shooting 14 field goal attempts per game. Like, get that up a little bit more. Because during this month, he's averaging 22 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists on only 14 field goal attempts a game. That's insane.
Him being kind of a bigger guy and doing the things he does on the court, using a lot of energy, both in terms of pushing the ball up and, like being physical with the ball in your hands. Maybe it's just a thing where he's got to learn how to do it for longer periods in the game. It probably tires him out a little bit. That'd be the only thing I can think of is why he doesn't do it more.
You got to put him in spots where he doesn't have to exert a bunch of energy to get a shot up that he's comfortable with. Because that's the problem. Is like it's a lot of ISO stuff for him, like going 100 miles an hour in transition. Like he has to exert legitimate energy to get shots up. So yeah, that could be part of the reason. But that's something for the Blazers to work around. It's just like you look at this month, man. 34 points on 15 field goal attempts. 30 points on 13 field goal attempts. It's just wild to me. So the month of March, he's playing like a star while only shooting 14 attempts, man. I mean, but the thing is, you look at February, Eric. He averaged 9.9 field goal attempts for the month of February.
Yeah,
it's not enough.
No, it's not.
It's not enough. So I don't know what the Blazers got to do or what Danny has to do, man. But I just feel like there's something there to tap into.
Do you want them to be better? Because I think that would.
I mean, better. if Denny starts taking the step to stardom and they're better right now, like I absolutely take that. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, Coleman's question kind of leads into this. He had a $10 donation, his 20th super chat. Thank you, Coleman. Almost a perfect game, except we took the dub. I was at the game. Rose was rocking. And then he asked, if somebody came to you from the future and said that one of Denny or Shea became a superstar, who would you guess?
I would guess Shea.
Yeah, I think I would too. Just like superstar, I could see Denny being, like making a all-star game or two.
Yeah.
I don't know about superstar. He just, like you mentioned, doesn't shoot enough or doesn't have as much of an opportunity. Like you need the scoring probably to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And so if one of those was guaranteed to be a superstar and I had to guess which one, I would say that Shea reached somewhat close to his potential.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Chat, let us know who you would guess.
But I also agree with Dro that Denny continues to prove time and time again he's the best player on the team. I also agree with that too.
Honestly, if you told me one of the players on this roster right now made an all-star appearance, I would guess Denny. Became a superstar, I would guess Shea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Yep.
Thank you,
Yep.
Coleman, for the donation. Appreciate it. Leave a like on the stream if you want me to wear some St. Patty's stuff. I might do it anyway because my girlfriend wants me to.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's cool that she encourages you to do stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. She bought me the the retro dice stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
she cool
Nice.
about it, man. She cool. But we gotta talk about Thibault. So Matisse Thybulle today returns, plays his first game since I believe it was like March 29th. I forget what the date they said. It was March of some point last year.
Almost a full year, yeah.
Yeah. Returns, plays 6 minutes, has 3 stocks. 3 stocks. Had a game sealing block and a couple of steals, was active defensively. So good for him, man. Happy for him.
Yeah, it was good to see him come in, make a bit of an impact. Of course, doesn't take a shot or anything, so that's always going to be the thing with him is can he contribute on offense at all? But he definitely came up with some plays that helped get us back in this game, and then ultimately the one that sealed it.
Yeah. Yep.
+7 in 6 minutes is pretty good.
Yeah, it is pretty good. Any other players you want to talk about?
Owen Ole Jakob just became an all-star level member. Thank you,
Shout out to
Jakob.
Jakob. Appreciate you, Jakob.
All right, and then Tamani is funny. You said you missed the first half, but I was frustrated with Tamani at the beginning of this game, and then he ends up having like an awesome game. So I think he took our first 2 shots, missed them both. One was like a really horrible runner that wasn't even close to going in. And then he had a turnover the next possession. He fouls Scotty Barnes with less than a second on the shot clock. Just horrible decision to be over aggressive in that moment. And then he bites on a Baji pump fake on the 3-point line and gets out of position and they score. I was like, what are you doing, man? And then he snapped out of it and was his usual Tamani self. But like, I think Castleton talked crap to him and that got him going because Castleton had some like putback on him.
Yeah.
And he was like, you could hear him yelling.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was at Tamani specifically or not, but he was yelling at someone on the Blazers. And then the next time down the court, Tamani took a charge on him and was like yelling back at him, and then he had a great game after that. But yeah, I was like, "What are you doing, Tamani? You're looking like Chris Murray out here right now." Like,
yeah, man, Castleton. How can Castleton even talk crap?
Yeah,
he's about to become only the 3rd best Florida big in the league next year.
Well, to be fair, they were like kicking our butt at the time, I think.
True. But yeah, man, I like Florida bigs. Florida big men. I like Florida.
Yeah.
Like their team this year especially, but Castleton, I mean, he was okay in college, but he's not good enough to be talking trash to Tamani. So I'm glad Tamani answered back.
They won the SEC tournament today, right?
Yeah. Dominated.
My daughter had soccer this morning, so I missed some of the games this morning.
Yeah. They won. UAB lost, unfortunately.
Yeah. So they're not going to be in?
No.
Or they weren't in?
They weren't.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't going to be in. They didn't have a good enough resume. Memphis was the only school from that conference that had a good enough resume, but Memphis's resume was that of an 8 seed, and they gave them a 5. So
You also had that 30, 20, 10, like 6 and 4 or something game the other day.
That was wild. Yeah, he's playing really well.
He almost had a 5x5 30-point triple double in the same game. Like,
yeah, my big board next on tomorrow's stream is going to have more changes between the current one and this upcoming one than the 2 before it. Yeah. Is yours going to be the same way?
There's some changes. I wouldn't say there's a ton of like drastic ones, but yeah, there's some changes.
Yeah, I mean, basically just like guys that I had watch little snippets of throughout the year, but then like because we got conference tournaments, sitting down and like watching multiple full games and just being like, dude, this dude's good type stuff.
Yeah.
So, but then also some guys just playing really well, too. On top of that is a big thing. So I'm gonna have some big changes.
I haven't seen any update on Cooper today. Is he gonna be able to play or what?
I'm not sure. I think he'll be fine. I think he might, skip the first game because he doesn't need to play that, and then maybe play versus the 8-9. But if he doesn't play that, and they win, then he gets another 4 days of rest or whatever. So,
it's not ideal, obviously, to have him get hurt, but like just seeing like players like Knipple step up when he goes down. That's always been my issue with like scouting teams like Duke. It's so hard to like know if like Knipple was on UAB instead of Yoxel, like how would his stats look? Like it's hard to tell. But then when you see someone step up in the absence of someone like that, then it's always cool to get that little extra scouting on them as the guy instead of.
Yeah. So, you know what it reminds me of? Like, these players have their differences, but you remember Devin Booker in college? How he was, like, mainly just a shooter that would occasionally do something off the bounce and could, like, pass a little bit. But he was on a really good Kentucky team, so he didn't have a big role. Watching Knipple without flag was just like, damn, he can do a little bit more off the bounce, and like there's more here than I thought. And yeah, maybe he's just on such a good team, he's just being held back. He also, I don't know, like, well, I'll talk more about him tomorrow, but if you can't tell, he's definitely risen on my board.
Yeah.
So if the Blazers don't move up, that's my guy for them for sure. That I would be happy with.
Well, then Queen had a 30-point game against Michigan, and
yeah, he had a really productive game. You're going to be shocked in my top 10.
Okay. Did you drop him out? Oh, okay. Never mind. That is. Find out tomorrow.
Or dropped him out after 30 and 20?
You just sounded down on him or something. I don't know. The way you commented made it sound like you.
Ever just dominated? I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I did, Eric. Maybe I did. I don't know. This is why you guys got to tune into the stream tomorrow. Big board. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. Also, now I'm starting to see Alex Condon first round love, and I just want to say I was early.
Yeah.
I was early on Condon. That's one of those guys where I liked him, and then all of a sudden consensus catches up because ESPN has him at 26. Yeah, so it's always funny when that happens, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Alrighty. Anything else for the stream?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Appreciate you all. Kind of surprised with the results of the poll being almost 2/3 of the people wanted us to win tonight. But no, like I said, that's your prerogative. So
yeah, I thought it'd be more 50-50.
Find out tomorrow if I still have Knipple at 22 on my board. Like
I would. I might.
You're going to rage at me?
Hang up the Skype call if I hear him at 22. That's all I'm going to say. Also, Skype's going away in May, so we're going to have to figure out something different there.
Oh, really?
Microsoft Teams or something.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Jakob says it's football, not soccer. In America, we call it soccer. Sorry, that offends you, Jakob.
Yeah.
It's literally called soccer here.
Dro says, win games, more fans, win games, more money, time to win next year. Oh, yeah. We just need to win, not to actually contend one day, not for championship or playoff run reasons, but just for money reasons. You're right. You're right. The fan attention and the money. That's what we need. Although it goes hand in hand with freaking contending, so build a contender. That's all I ask.
It sucks for people like us who want to see them contend and not care about being just good enough to be good enough for the fans, you know?
Yeah.
But like that's honestly how they've treated the franchise for years. So like it's not surprising if they actually thought that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Thank you for the donation, Coleman. Always appreciate the donations. Hit your like on the way out of here. We're at 68. We can get to 100. I'll wear something for St. Patty's Day or something tomorrow. So I'll wear some green. The
We're not
take
playing
on
a
the
green
Wizards.
team, so
Yeah, true. Nobody will get it confused. What? You're a Celtics fan? Yeah, so they take on the Wizards. It will be a 7 p.m. tip-off time. Let me double-check that. Yeah, 7 p.m. So and
the
then,
Wizards coming off their win over Denver in Denver.
Yeah, that's crazy. So maybe they could do the same to us? At this point, I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know what to root for, Eric.
Yeah.
Whatever I root for, the opposite happens. So I guess I'll root for them to beat the Wizards. Beat the Wizards. We'll have a better stream tomorrow night. All right? Something like that. Anyway, maybe we can be 2.5 back of the play-in, and I can make a clickbait video about it. About how the Blazers are destined for the play-in. Anyway, jokes aside, shout out to BetUS. Check out the bracket picks video earlier today if you want to. Unless you want to be a part of our $20 bracket pool. If so, let me know. Message me on Discord. Tag me in a Discord message in our Discord. Reach out to me on Twitter. DM me on Twitter. Or tweet at me. Any of those things if you want in our $20 bracket pool. If you want in our bracket pool, just don't watch the video. Don't watch the video. Hold off on watching the video. So you don't... I haven't won in the past couple of years. My brackets have been pretty bad, so, you don't want to cheat off mine. Anyway, let me know if you want in. Anything else, Eric?
No, thanks everyone for watching. Have a good night. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow night. The Blazers...
Or tomorrow afternoon, I guess.
Yeah, true. Second channel tomorrow afternoon, and then post-game show at night. We'll see if the Blazers can win 2 in a row, because they beat the Raptors today. The Raptors out-tanked them. Sitting Scotty Barnes and Jakob Poeltl down the stretch, the Raptors were clearly trying to lose this game, and they succeeded. And the Blazers moved to 29-39 on the year. We'll catch you for game number 69, I believe, tomorrow. So hopefully you guys have a good rest of your night. And we are out of here. Until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!